Welcome to the Busy Girl's Guide to the Bible podcast. I'm Andrea, and this podcast is my own ramblings and lessons that I have learned in trying to balance being a Christian, a wife, a mom, a writer, a business owner, a photographer, a blogger, a friend, a daughter, a sister, and the 1 million other things that make me me. What I want so badly is to teach other women that the Bible doesn't have to be confusing or frustrating or even over your head. I want to teach you the ways that I have learned to carve out time not only to get into the Bible, but to apply it, make sense of it, and get practical takeaways in everyday life. Welcome back. I'm so glad you guys are here. Thank you for putting up with the break. It's kind of crazy around here during the holidays with 3 kids and 3 schedules, and they're all 3 kids' schedules. And for whatever reason, even though we are 3 months into the boys being in school, I cannot remember to take them, and I am scrambling at the last minute to make them a lunch, and I don't know, it's so dumb, but I just can't get it into my head that they are old enough to be in school. So, summed up, I'm a mess, and there's no cleanup on aisle 9 in my foreseeable future. It's just kind of a mess. But I'm so glad that you are back this week. I struggled a little bit over the last few weeks with kind of being down in the dumps and just not having a great attitude. There's been like crappy circumstances where we had somebody in the family passed away, and obviously that's super depressing. And then I don't know, just a bunch of little things have come up that have just I have let them steal my joy. So when my husband was like, yo, are you going to record a podcast anytime soon? I was like, I guess. I just feel like, I don't know. I kind of feel like a fraud. Like I'm not super joyful right now. I sound joyful right now, but I just kind of feel blah. But I think so much of that is because the time of year, it's so busy. Obviously, it's the most wonderful time of the year. Duh. But it's also chaotic and hectic, and there's a lot going on. So I think I've just felt like I don't really have anything to say. I don't really have this groundbreaking, amazing podcast topic. So I've just kind of been laying low on top of a funeral and traveling, and anyway. But I'm back. And it was so cool because I was going through my podcast notes. I've got pages and pages of notes that I wrote over the last probably 6 months. And they are topics that were requested and topics that are important to me. Oh, I just hit the microphone. Sorry, Josh. And topics that we all struggle with as women. And so I was like, oh man, I have so much to talk about. There are so many things that we need to discuss and we need to be open about. And I think it was the second most requested topic was hearing God's voice, because it's so important, because I think we've made it so stinking complicated. And I for sure know I have. And I did a study on it with my Bible study table last semester. I don't know, a while ago, a year ago. And it was Priscilla Shire, or however you say her last name. And it was really good, but I was like, oh, I already knew this. It's such a simple no-brainer kind of thing, but we completely overcomplicate it. And so I did my own, I didn't just take it straight out of her book, because I'm not a butt face like that, but I did go and look and find different ways that God has communicated throughout the Bible, but even throughout my life, simple little things. And I was telling my girlfriend the other day that I'd had another just bad day, and but then it got turned around, instantly. By the end of that evening, something God one of his promises had become fulfilled. It hadn't even been 12 hours. It was bananas. And she was like, oh my gosh, do you journal? And I said, yes, I do. And I said, the journal this year, which I didn't journal before, I will now, but I started journaling last November. And the whole book is just things that God has told me and then fulfilling what he told me, which is crazy to have fulfillment of promises, within the year is, I think it's kind of bananas, because I know some people pray for things for decades, and so then to have God say, hey, you're going to do X, Y, and Z, and to have those things happen and like repeatedly, like, hey, I called you to do this. And then I'm like, but did you? And then, hey, yeah, I did. And here's your 8 reminders. So anyway, it was really cool because I got to see how I've heard God's voice over the last year and how he's actually brought those promises to fulfillment. So I wanted to share that with you guys today. And I want to break it down for you so that you understand, like, you're hearing God's voice and you don't realize it, because I do the same thing. So let's stop overcomplicating it. Okay. So true story. I was sitting on the toilet when today's inspiration came for this podcast, because this was like I said, the number 2 requested topic, most requested topic for the podcast, because so many people want to know. We want to know how to hear God's voice, and we are worried that we are missing God's voice. And so I had already decided-ish that I was going to go ahead and record about hearing God's voice. And then it was just so crazy that this verse popped up. And I think it was Instagram or maybe Pinterest, but it was Isaiah 58:11. And it said, wherever the Lord asks you to go, he will guide you, which made me laugh, because I was like, okay, well, I guess I don't have to be in a prayer closet or in a church. I can be on a different throne and hearing the voice of God. So so many times we want to say that it's coincidence, and I don't really believe in coincidence. I think that everything happens for a reason. I think that everything happens because it all works together in the end. We know the end of the story. We know that we win. So I think when you hear God say something that maybe seems like so far-fetched, it's like, I don't know. I personally believe that that's like an attaboy, like, hey, you're doing good. Like, keep going. This is where you're supposed to go. So I don't know, listen for God's voice on Pinterest or Instagram, and in the bathroom. I mean, hey, he can talk to you anywhere, right? So researching a little bit and reading around in the Bible, I found that I'm sure there are other ways, but these were kind of the highlighted things for me in hearing God's voice. And one is the word, getting in the Bible and hearing on the toilet that God's going to guide you wherever he asks you to go. Your thoughts, other people, praying, and circumstances. So many times we think that, I posted about this in the You Belong community. Hey, quick plug. Are you in that group? It's amazing. It's awesome. We pray for you. We hold your arms up when you can't do it. And just like daily encouragement. It's awesome. Get in the group. Facebook, You Belong community. Anyway, side note. I think so many times we believe that our circumstances are an attack from the enemy. And yes, they can be, for sure. It tells us in the Bible that you have an enemy that tries to kill, steal, and destroy. He's the worst. But a lot of times our circumstances are a direct correlation to something that we have done. They are consequences of our actions, whether good or bad. But so many times those are the things that actually mold you and shape you and take you to the next place that you're supposed to go in your life. So if you feel like there are things in your life that are kind of wonky and the circumstances could be better, but you feel like there is a direct correlation to something that happened 5 years ago, something that happened 2 years ago, whatever it is, a lot of times that is what's happening. It's not bad. It's not necessarily good, but it's just a learning experience. It's a platform for you to get to the next place in your life. And if you take it like that, if you take it as, this is God showing you, this is where I'm supposed to go, this is how I'm supposed to live my life. I heard clearly XYZ, and now this is happening. A lot of times, that's just God saying, hey, hey, we're going through it together, and I'm going to walk with you, and I'm going to help you. And Isaiah 58:11, he's going to guide you to that next place because that's his plan for you. I also have, I have purposely surrounded myself with people from all walks of life. What's that saying? You're the sum of the 5 closest people to you in your life. I love that because it's true. And unfortunately, there are 3 tiny little whiny people who are always at my feet. So I hope that I'm not picking up on that and being like a super whiny, obnoxious person, but that's for another day, another podcast. But I do try to have people in my life who are older than me, who are younger than me, who have gone through different experiences that I haven't gone through, that I can go to when I need something, when I'm feeling like God's telling me this, but I'm not quite sure, or I'm in a situation where I'm just like, I don't know what to do here. I don't know what the right response is. What would you do in your experience, in your wisdom, having gone through something similar or just being older than me? Those people are so valuable because they have something that you can't get other than being alive. They have this experience that you have to wait for because you haven't been through that yet. And there's something so beautiful about that because you can't buy it. You can't, you can't finagle it or anything. You just have to walk through it. And so those people are really important in my life because I feel like, man, they have so much wisdom to give you. They have so much guidance, and they have, and it's not going to be right every time. Like I might ask somebody for something in a certain situation and they might not have the right answer, and that's okay. But their willingness to share and be open with me, that means the world. And sometimes just being in their presence, I have this woman in my life who every time she prays, oh my gosh, I'm like instantly transformed in this like puddle of mush, not crying, but just like so peaceful. It's bananas. And I love it. I love being around her because it's just so, oh my gosh, life-giving. So try to surround yourself with people who have gone through things, who are older than you. I mean, not everybody needs to be. You should definitely have some people who are in your age category, in the same walk of life that you are in. You know, if you're a mom, have mom friends. If you are married, have married friends. You know, all of those kinds of things. If you have different things that you're battling, anxiety, depression, eating disorders, whatever, like actually get around people like that who have overcome them. That's the key. And glean from them, like be around them, be in their presence, and ask them, for tips and tricks and like, how do you get through potty training twins? I don't remember. It was like a lot of bribes. And, like right now with my daughter, we're going through a lot of emotions. And so I'm seeking people out who have been there, who have daughters who have like gone past this and who have survived prepubescence. Because it's so important. There's nothing that I can do. I can't pull this out of my butt and like figure it out. And obviously, like I'm totally praying and seeking the Lord, but part of seeking the Lord means seeking people out who have been there, who believe the same things that you do, and who can go, it's okay. Like, I know I've been there. I have stood in my pantry and eaten a Snickers bar and cried. So get around people like that because they are so life-giving. We are trying really hard with our daughter to talk to her about who God is and how he speaks to us. And like I said, she's kind of going through an emotional time. And so we try to remind her, like, your thoughts are not fact. That's not a fact. And I always tell her, if you're feeling stressed out, if you're feeling emotional, you need to ask Jesus, what is real in this moment? What is real? You have a family who loves you. You have a roof over your head. You have a comfy bed. You have 2 little brothers who love you. You have food on the table. Just really basic things to remind her that her thoughts aren't always true. So with that, I want to say your thoughts can actually lead you to the next thing, and it can be the voice of God. But sometimes you have to really check those because not everything that you think, not all the thoughts that wash through your brain are true or real. And so if they line up with the word of God, boom, there you go. If they line up with somebody who is speaking truth and love into your life, boom, there you go. And if you feel like circumstances are lining up with those things, there you go. Our thoughts are not always real, but they can be a stepping stone to the next thing for us. So many times I have my journal right here with me, and I've been driving. Like, God talks to me so much when I'm driving. I think because I'm just kind of zoned out. And one of the very first things when I came back from my trip and I had felt like God had said, you're going to go into ministry. And again, for those in the back, I laughed. It was great because I remember driving down this tiny little street in our town, and I said to God, if you give me a platform, I will talk about you. And the best clap back, he said, girl, you've got a platform, use it. And I was like, oh, sorry, you're right. Like, what is this age that we live in with all of this technology, Instagram and all, social media and podcasting and all of these things. And in that moment, I was like, oh, I should start a podcast. And God was like, yeah, go for it. And it took me, I don't know, like 9 months. No. Oh yeah, no. Yeah. 9 months. Sorry, that was bananas. 9 months to finally go, okay, loud and clear. Gotcha. Because I was scared and because I was like, I don't have anything to say. Nobody cares what I have to say. And hey, if there are only 4 people out there listening, whatever. I hope you 4 people are enjoying this. The point is that there's so many instances where your thoughts or your prayers are God talking to you and leading you. And as long as they line up with the word of God, you can trust them. If they don't, toss them out. They're worthless. The other major, glaringly obvious choice for hearing God's voice is the Bible. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's so funny because I didn't know until I tried really hard when I was I think it was 19, to really get into the word. And I had this, I think it was a New King James Version. So, very modern. And I tried really hard to understand it. I tried really hard to apply it, but I just felt like it was so many these and thous and those and whatever that it just didn't really resonate with me. And so it wasn't until this last year that I got this really awesome Bible. If you follow me on social media, you know that I freaking love this Bible. It's the best. It's the ESV single column journaling Bible. I love the language. I love the way that it's written because it helps if you are not the brightest. And I love how much space there is to write notes and to color all over it and just get crazy with your highlighters, because I really like that. But it's been so instrumental. And then having a good commentary. I love Matthew Henry. I know a lot of people are not keen on a commentary because it's someone else's opinion. But it helps guide me a lot, and it helps break some things down. And I've talked about before that I'm a huge history nerd. And so I really like knowing the context behind a passage. I don't want to just take a verse and just go, okay, well, this applies to my life. I want to know who the person was talking to. I want to know what the circumstances were. I want to know the place in history. And then I can go, okay, I can apply this to my life in XYZ. It's really great. So if you need a new Bible, it's almost Christmas. You need to get this one. It's awesome. And it'll help with this final step of hearing the voice of God through the word. And I know a lot of times it can feel overwhelming and like it doesn't apply. But if you can take, like I said, if you can take a section of the Bible or like a passage and get out of it what whoever the speaker is, whoever is speaking, if you can try and get out what they're talking about, it does apply to your life. There's a reason that this book is always at the top of the bestseller list, that it stands up against all kinds of scrutiny and all the, whatever. I'm not a philosopher. My husband is. He's all into theology and all that stuff. I am not. But it's great to be married to somebody who is into that. So anyway, If you need a new Bible, I would highly recommend this one. I think it's going to help you break things down and really get what you need out of a passage. And then it's going to be easier to hear God's voice. If you feel like you're in a dry season, one of the things that I loved about that study, hearing God's voice, what was it? Is that what it's called? I don't know, something like that. It was Priscilla. She talked about that God's always talking to us. He's not silent. And I mean, there have been so many times, and I've said this recently, where I'm just like, well, God's completely clammed up on me. Thanks a lot. And it's just not true, because all throughout history, it shows us like he's not quiet. Maybe it's a resting period for you, or maybe it's a period where God's already told you what to do and you're just not doing it. Been there, done that. And if you are really seeking out the voice of God, all of those things are just they compound. You're going to find more and more that circumstances are going to line up with whatever God has told you. People are going to confirm what he's told you. It's crazy. It's so funny how that stuff works, because it's really easy to get into a rut, where I have been recently, just feeling like not only am I not hearing God's voice and he's just like, stop talking to me, but also getting hit on all sides and feeling like, okay, well, God told me this 6 months ago, 9 months ago, 12 months ago, but all these other people are telling me that I heard wrong, or in their own words, are disqualifying me or whatever. And hello, God's not going to go back on a promise. So if you need to hear his voice, just know that you are not alone. That we all need to hear God's voice. We all need to be able to move forward and listen to the voice of God. It's just not that complicated. I promise. I hope you feel like you can hear God's voice and that it's not as scary and overwhelming as you maybe thought it was. Because I feel that way all the time. Well, God's not talking. God's not listening. I'm not really hearing anything. But if you look up, he's always talking. He's always moving. You know truth. You know righteousness. You know what wisdom looks like. It says in Proverbs that wisdom like basically shouts and screams in the streets, which seems crazy, but we know it. We know it when we see it. We know what God is telling us. We know where he's called us. And if we just look up and if we just listen, we're going to go in that direction and he's going to guide us. Like it says in Isaiah 53:11. So I hope you are having a great week. I am praying for you this week. Thank you for being here again. If you haven't already, hit subscribe so that you get notifications when there's a new episode that drops. And then we would love to have you in the You Belong community, which is on Facebook. Get in there, request to be added, and one of my admins will add you. We love having new people. I hope you have an amazing week. Enjoy this Christmas season because it's so cool and it's so magical, and turn some Mariah Carey on and like holler at the top of your lungs in your car. I love you guys and praying for you, and I'll be back next week with a new episode. Love you.